Moonlit Sleep Stories. Good evening and welcome. Tonight, there is nowhere you need to hurry, nothing you need to finish, and no great decisions waiting for you before sunrise. The world beyond your window can continue without you for a little while. Instead, you are invited to step quietly into another century, a slower one, where each passing hour is measured not by clocks, but by birdsong, drifting clouds, and the gentle glow of candlelight. As always, settle into a comfortable position. Allow your shoulders to soften. Let your breathing become slow and easy. If your eyelids already feel pleasantly heavy, that is exactly as they should. Our journey begins many centuries ago, somewhere in the rolling countryside of medieval Europe. There are no crowded cities here, no towering castles dominating the horizon, no roaring battles or noisy marketplaces, only forests, only fields, only quiet paths worn smooth by generations of careful footsteps. And somewhere among those ancient woods stands a small cottage, hidden beneath tall oak and beech trees. It is here that you will spend the day, not as a king nor as a knight, but as a humble herbal healer whose greatest treasures are growing quietly beneath the morning dew. The first thing you notice is the silence. Not complete silence, of course. Medieval forests are never truly silent. Instead, they breathe. A distant owl finishes its final call before sleep. Leaves whisper together in the gentle breeze. Somewhere nearby, water trickles over smooth stones, following the same little stream that has crossed this valley for thousands of years. The air carries the fresh scent of damp earth mixed with moss, pine needles, and wild mint growing freely beside the narrow footpath. You take a slow breath. The forest smells alive. Above you, the last stars fade one by one, as the eastern sky begins to glow with soft shades of pale blue and gentle gold. Morning is arriving quietly. Your cottage rests beneath the shelter of enormous oak branches whose leaves dance gently with every passing breeze. The roof is made from thick bundles of straw that have weathered many winters. Its timber walls lean ever so slightly with age, but every beam has been carefully maintained over decades. Nothing here is grand, nothing here is expensive, yet everything has been built with patience. The small wooden door opens with a familiar creak. Inside, warmth still lingers from the fire that burned through the night. A few glowing embers remain beneath the ashes, casting tiny orange lights across the stone hearth. The cottage is simple. A sturdy oak table stands near the window. Several handmade stools surround it. Clay jars line rough wooden shelves, each carefully labeled with tiny parchment strips tied with linen thread. Bundles of lavender hang beside rosemary. Chamomile dries next to sage. Yarrow, thyme, nettle, elderflower, and dozens of other healing plants sway gently from the ceiling beams. The room carries a fragrance unlike anywhere else. It is earthy, sweet, fresh, comforting. Every breath seems to calm both body and mind. You quietly place another small log onto the dying fire. A few gentle flames awaken almost immediately, filling the cottage with soft golden light. There is no rush. There never is. The people of this valley understand something that later centuries often forget. Nature decides the rhythm. Humans simply follow. You pour fresh water from a clay pitcher into a black iron kettle and place it above the fire. Soon, faint curls of steam begin to rise. While the water warms, you open the wooden shutters. Cool morning air flows into the room. Outside, tiny droplets of dew sparkle across the herb garden. Rows of medicinal plants stretch neatly beside the cottage. Calendula blooms with cheerful orange flowers. Purple lavender attracts early bees. Soft green sage catches the first sunlight. Nearby, fragrant mint spreads enthusiastically wherever it finds room. Every plant has its purpose. Every leaf tells a story. Some soothe tired muscles, others calm troubled stomachs. Some ease restless sleep. A few help clean wounds gathered during long days in the fields. Knowledge like this has passed quietly from one generation to another, not through grand universities, but through careful observation and patient experience. For centuries, healers have walked these same woods, learning not from books alone, but from the forests themselves. You step outside carrying a woven willow basket. Its handle feels smooth from years of use. Mist still drifts low across the meadow beyond the garden fence. Each blade of grass bends beneath tiny pearls of morning dew. As you begin walking, your boots make almost no sound upon the soft earth. Birds gradually welcome the new day. A robin sings first, then a blackbird. Soon, dozens of different melodies drift gently through the forest canopy, blending into a peaceful chorus that seems older than memory itself. Sunlight slowly filters between towering branches. Golden rays illuminate floating particles of mist, making the woodland appear almost dreamlike. Not magical, simply beautiful. Exactly as countless mornings have appeared for hundreds of years. You kneel beside a cluster of chamomile flowers growing near the edge of the path. Each tiny blossom faces upward toward the warming sun. Carefully, you harvest only those that are fully opened. Never all of them, always leaving plenty behind for bees, butterflies, and next season's growth. Patience has always been the first lesson of a herbal healer. Nature offers generously, but only when treated with respect. With each flower placed gently into your basket, another peaceful moment settles over the morning. No one is waiting impatiently. No bells announce deadlines. Only the quiet rhythm of breathing, walking, gathering, and listening to the ancient forest that has welcomed healers like you for generations. The forest grows a little brighter with each passing minute, though the morning still feels wrapped in a gentle hush. You continue along the narrow path, your basket resting lightly against your arm. Every few steps, you pause, not because you are tired, but because careful observation has always been the heart of your work. A hurried traveler might see only green leaves. You see stories. A patch of broad green leaves catches your attention beneath the shade of an old hazel tree. You kneel slowly, brushing aside a few fallen leaves that have rested here since the previous autumn. There it is, broadleaf plantain. It is a remarkably common plant, growing quietly along paths where countless people walk without noticing it. Yet medieval healers valued it for generations, often preparing simple poultices for minor cuts and irritated skin. You gently gather only a few healthy leaves. The roots remain undisturbed. By tomorrow, the plant will continue growing as though you had never visited. The forest rewards those who take only what they truly need. A gentle breeze passes overhead. The oak branches answer with a soft, rustling sound, like distant waves washing against a quiet shore. Somewhere higher in the canopy, a squirrel pauses its morning search for acorns. It watches you for a brief moment before disappearing effortlessly among the branches. Life continues around you without fear. The animals of these woods have grown accustomed to your slow movements. You have never entered this forest to conquer it, only to learn from it. As the path curves gently downhill, the sound of running water becomes clearer. A narrow stream winds through smooth stones polished by centuries of flowing water. The surface reflects the pale morning sky like rippling glass. You crouch beside the bank and dip your fingers into the current. The water is wonderfully cool. Fed by distant springs deep beneath the hills, it carries a freshness impossible to imitate. Nearby, clusters of water mint release their crisp fragrance into the morning air. Dragonflies hover just above the surface, their delicate wings catching flashes of sunlight as they dart gracefully from one reed to another. You pause here for several quiet moments. There is no reason to hurry onward. Even in the Middle Ages, experienced herbal healers understood that stillness was part of the work. Moments spent simply observing often revealed more than hours of restless searching. A king might spend his morning discussing borders. A merchant might worry about markets. A soldier might prepare his armor. But here, beside this gentle stream, your greatest concern is whether the thyme growing on the sunny hillside will be ready for harvesting before the afternoon grows too warm. It is a remarkably peaceful way to measure a day. You rise once more, following the stream until sunlight begins reaching the forest floor in brighter patches. Here, the landscape changes. The thick woodland opens into a small clearing filled with wildflowers. White yarrow dances gently in the breeze. Purple self-heal spreads low across the grass. Golden St. John's wort lifts tiny blossoms toward the sun. Each plant occupies its own place, forming a living tapestry stitched together by nature over countless seasons. You remember the words of the elderly healer who first taught you many years ago. "Never rush toward the rarest plant," she would often say with a quiet smile. "Learn to notice the ordinary ones first." It had seemed like simple advice. Only later did you understand its deeper meaning. Most healing begins with paying attention, not only to plants, but to people, to changing weather, to quiet expressions, to the seasons, and to yourself. You kneel beside the yarrow, carefully examining its feathery leaves. Only healthy stems are chosen. Flowers already fading are left untouched, allowing their seeds to return to the earth. Everything follows a cycle. Nothing is wasted. As your basket gradually fills with carefully gathered herbs, its scent becomes richer. Lavender mingles with chamomile. Mint blends softly with thyme. Fresh rosemary adds its sharp woodland fragrance. Together they create an aroma so calming that even a deep breath seems to quiet every restless thought. Far away, carried faintly across the valley, comes the gentle ringing of a church bell. Only one slow note, then another. It is not a command. Simply a quiet reminder that another day has begun for the small farming village beyond the hills. Smoke now rises from distant cottages where families prepare their first meal. Children will soon help feed chickens. Farmers will lead oxen into the fields. Millers will open the water wheel beside the river. Bakers will tend warm ovens long before the village fully wakes. Every life follows its own quiet rhythm. Yours simply happens to begin among herbs, birdsong, and morning mist. A pair of rabbits emerges cautiously from beneath a hawthorn bush. Their ears twitch as they sniff the cool air. For a long moment, neither of you moves. Then, deciding there is nothing to fear, they continue nibbling tender grass while sunlight slowly warms the clearing. You cannot help but smile. In places like this, trust is built not through words but through countless peaceful mornings shared together. Clouds drift lazily across the brightening sky. The cool blue tones of dawn gradually give way to warmer shades of gold. Soon the sun will climb higher, carrying away the last traces of mist. That will be your signal to return home. Many of today's herbs must be cleaned while still fresh. Others will be tied into neat bundles and hung from the ceiling beams to dry over the coming weeks. Some will become fragrant teas. Some will be carefully ground into powders. Others will steep slowly in warm oils or honey, following methods that have been passed from healer to healer for generations. None of the work is hurried. None of it is loud. Every task invites patience. Every movement encourages calm. With one final glance across the peaceful meadow, you turn toward the winding woodland path. The cottage waits quietly beyond the trees, its chimney now sending a thin ribbon of smoke into the clear morning sky. And somewhere inside, the kettle you placed above the fire is almost certainly beginning to sing its soft, familiar song. The familiar path welcomes you back without asking where you have been. Your basket is pleasantly heavier now, filled with carefully gathered herbs whose fragrances mingle with every gentle step. Lavender lends its calming sweetness. Mint offers a cool freshness. Chamomile carries the soft scent of late summer fields, while sprigs of rosemary release their rich, woody aroma whenever the basket brushes against your cloak. The forest seems to recognize these quiet rituals. Sunlight now reaches deeper beneath the canopy, painting long ribbons of gold across the mossy ground. Tiny spiders have woven delicate webs between low branches during the night, and each strand sparkles with countless droplets of dew. You pause rather than walk through them. The spider has worked through the darkness to build its home. A single careful step around the web costs you almost nothing. Kindness often reveals itself in the smallest choices. As you continue, the woodland begins to stir with gentle activity. A family of deer grazes peacefully in a distant meadow, their ears lifting at the sound of your footsteps. They watch for only a moment before returning to their breakfast, sensing no danger in your quiet presence. The path gradually rises toward a low hill. From its crest, you can see the valley stretching before you. Small cottages rest among patches of cultivated fields, each surrounded by simple wooden fences. Thin streams of smoke rise lazily from their chimneys, curling into the still morning air. Beyond them stands a modest stone church with a weathered wooden bell tower. Its walls have witnessed countless baptisms, weddings, harvest festivals, and peaceful farewells through generations of villagers. Life here changes slowly. A child born this year may grow old beneath the very same oak trees now casting shade across the valley. Many medieval villages remained much the same for centuries, shaped by the seasons more than by passing rulers. You begin walking downhill, following a narrow trail lined with blackberry bushes. The berries are still green. They will need several more weeks beneath the summer sun before they become sweet enough to gather. Nature keeps its own calendar. No one argues with it. Near the edge of the path, bright blue cornflowers sway gently among wild grasses. Bees move patiently from blossom to blossom, carrying golden pollen that will nourish the flowers of tomorrow. Watching them reminds you of another lesson your old teacher often repeated. Take only what the bees can spare. The saying was never written in any great manuscript, yet it held generations of quiet wisdom. Without bees, there would be fewer flowers. Without flowers, fewer seeds. Without seeds, fewer herbs. Even in the Middle Ages, thoughtful healers understood that their work depended upon the health of the world around them. Long before the word ecology existed, many people recognized the delicate balance connecting forests, streams, insects, birds, animals, and people. You reach the wooden gate surrounding your cottage. Its iron latch feels cool beneath your fingers. The hinges give their familiar little squeak as you step inside. The herb garden glows beneath the strengthening sunlight. Rows of sage shimmer with silvery green leaves. Calendula flowers open fully now, their bright orange petals welcoming every visiting bee. Small butterflies drift lazily from blossom to blossom. You set the basket carefully upon the wooden table just outside the cottage door. There is no sense beginning work immediately. Fresh herbs benefit from a few quiet moments in the cool morning air before they are cleaned. So do you. You fill a simple wooden cup with cool spring water drawn earlier from the nearby well. The water tastes wonderfully fresh. No spices, no sweeteners, nothing added. Only clear water flowing from deep beneath ancient stone. For a few peaceful minutes, you simply sit upon the small wooden bench beside the doorway. The morning breeze carries the scent of pine forests mixed with flowering herbs. Somewhere nearby, a rooster proudly announces what everyone already knows, that the sun has risen. A sleepy cat stretches beneath the warmth of the stone wall before curling once more into a comfortable patch of sunlight. Its only responsibility today appears to be enjoying the weather. You smile softly. Perhaps there is wisdom in that as well. Eventually, you carry the basket indoors. The cottage feels comfortably cool despite the growing warmth outside. Thick stone at the base of the walls helps preserve the gentle temperature within. The herbs are arranged across the oak table one handful at a time. This part of the work requires patience rather than speed. You separate each plant carefully. Chamomile blossoms in one woven tray, lavender in another. Rosemary rests upon clean linen cloth. Mint is spread thinly so air can circulate between its leaves. If herbs are dried too quickly, they lose much of their fragrance. If dried too slowly, moisture may spoil them. Experience teaches the proper balance. There are no written measurements, only careful observation. Your hands move with quiet confidence developed over many years. Every stem is examined. Damaged leaves are removed. Healthy blossoms remain untouched. The room gradually fills with an even richer fragrance than before. It is as though the very air has become a gentle medicine. Sunlight enters through the open window, illuminating tiny dust particles that drift lazily above the wooden floor. Outside, swallows dart through the bright blue sky, catching insects with astonishing grace. Their swift movements contrast beautifully with the peaceful rhythm inside the cottage. You work slowly, one bundle, then another. There is satisfaction in simple repetition. Tie the stems with linen thread. Hang them from the ceiling beam. Leave enough space between each bundle for the air to flow freely. Repeat. Again and again. The growing rows of drying herbs transform the cottage into a living garden suspended above your head. Purple lavender, golden yarrow, silvery sage, soft green mint, white chamomile, each one preserving a little piece of summer for the colder months ahead. By winter, when snow covers the fields and frost clings to every branch, these carefully prepared herbs will offer comfort to neighbors who cannot simply walk into the forest. The work you do today quietly serves people you may not even meet for many months. That thought fills the room with a quiet sense of purpose, not urgency, not ambition, simply purpose. The fire crackles softly in the hearth. A black iron kettle begins to murmur as tiny bubbles form along its base. Soon, the comforting sound of gently steaming water blends with birdsong drifting through the open window. It is nearly time to prepare the day's first herbal infusion, a tradition as old as the cottage itself. But there is no need to hurry. The morning is still young, and the peaceful rhythm of the day has only just begun. The gentle whisper of the kettle gradually grows into a soft, familiar hum. Not a sharp whistle, nor an impatient cry for attention. Simply the quiet reminder that the spring water has reached the perfect warmth. You step toward the hearth without haste. In a life like yours, almost nothing happens quickly. Even the fire seems content to burn at its own peaceful pace, each log settling with an occasional gentle crackle that echoes softly through the cottage. The room feels wonderfully alive. Sunlight spills across the worn wooden floorboards, illuminating the herbs that sway gently from the ceiling beams whenever the morning breeze slips through the open window. The fragrance surrounding you has become almost impossible to separate into individual scents. Lavender mingles with sage. Mint drifts into rosemary. Chamomile softens everything with its delicate sweetness. Together they create an aroma that seems to settle quietly upon the mind, inviting every anxious thought to become just a little lighter. You reach for a small earthenware teapot resting on the highest shelf. Its surface bears tiny imperfections left by the village potter many years ago. One side is slightly uneven. The handle curves a little more than intended. Yet those small irregularities give it character. In the medieval world, perfection is rarely expected. Objects are valued because they are useful, carefully made, and built to last through many seasons. You gently place a handful of dried chamomile blossoms into the pot. A few fresh mint leaves follow. Finally, you add a tiny sprig of lemon balm, one of the most cherished herbs growing in your garden. Medieval herbalists often appreciated lemon balm for its pleasant fragrance and calming qualities, cultivating it in monastery gardens and village cottages across much of Europe. Its citrus-like scent seems to brighten the room before the water has even touched it. You carefully lift the kettle. Steam curls upward in delicate ribbons, disappearing into the warm air above. The hot water flows slowly over the waiting herbs. Almost immediately, their colors deepen. Tiny blossoms begin to unfurl once again, releasing the gentle oils they have quietly stored beneath the summer sun. You cover the teapot with a folded linen cloth. Now comes another lesson in patience. Good herbs cannot be hurried. They must be allowed to share their gifts slowly. While the infusion rests, you open a small wooden chest tucked beneath the table. Inside lie dozens of carefully folded parchment pages. Each one contains observations gathered across many years. The writing is neat but simple. There are no elaborate decorations, only practical notes. One page records the unusually early flowering of elder trees after a particularly mild spring. Another describes how certain herbs seemed especially fragrant following several weeks of steady rain. A third mentions that peppermint gathered shortly before sunrise often retained its aroma longer during winter storage. These are not grand discoveries destined for royal libraries. They are quiet observations made by someone who has spent a lifetime paying attention. Knowledge grows slowly. One season, one harvest, one careful note at a time. Outside, the village is fully awake now. Though the cottage sits comfortably apart from the nearest homes, the sounds of daily life drift faintly across the valley. Somewhere, an axe strikes seasoned firewood with measured rhythm. A dog gives 2 brief barks before settling once more. Children laugh somewhere beyond the fields, their voices carried gently upon the breeze before fading into the distance. None of the sounds disturb the peaceful morning. Instead, they become part of it. Life unfolding naturally, without haste, without noise overwhelming the silence. You return your attention to the herbs hanging overhead. Each bundle represents weeks of careful work. Plants gathered too early lose much of their strength. Gathered too late, they may already be fading. Weather must be watched. The sun's position considered. Morning dew allowed to disappear before many leaves are collected. For generations, herbal healers learned these rhythms not from clocks but from observation. The forest became their teacher. The seasons became their calendar. You gently touch one bundle of drying lavender. Its blossoms have already begun to lose their fresh softness, becoming lighter and more delicate each passing day. Soon they will be placed inside linen pouches. Some will perfume blankets and clothing chests. Others may be added to warm baths or gentle herbal pillows prepared for neighbors struggling with restless nights. Simple comforts. Quiet comforts. Sometimes those are the most meaningful. The aroma from the teapot tells you the infusion is ready. You lift the cloth and remove the lid. A fragrant cloud of warm herbal steam rises gracefully into the sunlight. It smells of peaceful gardens after rain, of summer mornings, of fields gently warmed by the first golden light of day. You pour the clear golden liquid into a handmade clay cup. Its warmth spreads comfortably into your hands. There is no sugar, no milk, only herbs, pure spring water, and time. You take the first slow sip. The flavor is wonderfully gentle. Chamomile offers soft floral notes. Mint adds a cool freshness that lingers pleasantly. The lemon balm contributes a subtle brightness, almost impossible to describe, yet immediately comforting. You do not drink while working. Instead, you sit beside the open window. For a few quiet minutes, your only task is to enjoy the morning. A pair of swallows circles above the herb garden. Their graceful flight seems effortless. Below them, Bees continue their patient work among the blossoms, completely unconcerned with yesterday or tomorrow. Perhaps that is one reason the natural world feels so peaceful. Nothing worries about the future. Everything simply becomes what the day asks it to be. As the warm cup gradually empties, sunlight climbs higher above the surrounding trees. The shadows across the garden grow shorter. Soon, visitors from the village may begin arriving. A farmer seeking something soothing after long hours in the fields. A mother hoping for herbs to prepare a comforting tea for a restless child. An elderly neighbor simply wishing to share a few quiet moments of conversation. Healing, you have learned, rarely comes from herbs alone. Often, it begins with being welcomed into a peaceful room, with someone listening carefully, with a warm drink placed gently into waiting hands. Long before any remedy is offered, kindness has already begun its quiet work. You place the empty cup upon the table and smile softly as another gentle breeze carries the scent of lavender through the open window. The day is unfolding exactly as it should, unhurried, simple, peaceful, just as countless mornings have unfolded in this little cottage for generations. The last warmth of your herbal infusion lingers pleasantly as you place the earthen cup beside the window. For a little while, nothing happens. The fire continues its quiet conversation with the seasoned oak logs. Outside, bees wander patiently among the lavender blossoms, pausing at each flower with remarkable care. Their tiny wings create a gentle hum that drifts through the open doorway, blending with birdsong and the soft rustle of leaves overhead. The cottage seems to breathe with the landscape around it. No wall separates you from the forest completely. The scent of pine, damp earth, and flowering herbs travels freely inside, while the comforting aroma of drying lavender and warm chamomile escapes gently into the garden. Then, almost too softly to notice, comes the sound of footsteps. Not hurried footsteps, not frightened ones. Slow, measured, respectful. Someone approaches along the narrow path leading from the village. You remain seated. There is no reason to rush toward the door. Visitors here understand that patience is part of every conversation. A few moments later, a gentle knock sounds against the weathered oak door. 3 quiet taps. You rise and lift the simple wooden latch. Standing outside is an elderly shepherd whose face has been shaped by many summers beneath the open sky. His wool cloak carries the faint scent of fresh grass and sheep's wool, while sturdy leather boots are lightly dusted with the pale earth of the nearby hills. His expression is warm, not because he expects a miracle, simply because he knows he will be welcomed. "Good morning," he says with a small smile. His voice is calm, softened by age rather than weakened by it. You return the greeting and invite him inside. The shepherd pauses for a moment before entering, carefully wiping his boots upon the woven reed mat beside the doorway. Even small gestures of courtesy matter here. Inside, his eyes wander across the familiar shelves lined with clay jars and bundles of herbs. Though he has visited many times over the years, he still seems to admire the quiet order of the room. Sunlight catches the hanging lavender, filling the air with its gentle fragrance. "It always smells like summer in here," he says quietly. "You smile." Perhaps that is one of the greatest comforts a herbal healer can offer. Not only medicine, but a place where every season leaves behind a little warmth. The shepherd settles onto the sturdy wooden stool beside the hearth. You notice the way he stretches one knee before sitting. A small movement, almost unnoticed. But years of careful observation have taught you that tiny movements often reveal more than long explanations. "Has the hillside been steep this week?" you ask gently. He chuckles. The hills haven't become any smaller. Outside, his flock has spent several long days grazing on the higher pastures where fresh grasses grow after recent rains. Walking those slopes from sunrise until evening asks much of aging joints. He speaks without complaint, simply sharing the ordinary rhythm of his work. As he talks, you listen far more than you speak. That, too, is part of healing. Long before examining herbs, experienced healers learn to observe faces, posture, breathing, and tone of voice. Many answers appear before the first question is even asked. You move toward one of the shelves and carefully select a small linen pouch filled with dried meadowsweet and willow bark. Historically, both plants were known in parts of medieval Europe and were valued in traditional herbal practices, though their use varied by region and by the knowledge of individual healers. You place the pouch upon the table. "There is enough here for several evenings," you explain softly. "A warm infusion before rest may bring some comfort after long walks." The shepherd nods with quiet gratitude. He knows these herbs are not magic. They cannot erase years of climbing hills or carrying heavy burdens, but sometimes comfort is enough. Sometimes easing the day by even a small amount is a gift worth receiving. While the herbs are wrapped carefully in fresh linen, you prepare another pot of warm herbal tea, not because it is necessary, because hospitality comes before business. The water pours slowly over chamomile blossoms once again. Steam rises gently into the room. The shepherd watches the familiar ritual with peaceful eyes. "I remember," he says after a thoughtful silence, "my grandmother preparing herbs much like these. You looked toward him with quiet interest." "She taught me that every plant deserved to be thanked before it was gathered." You nod slowly. Many traditions are never written in books. They travel instead through conversations beside fireplaces, through parents teaching children, through neighbors sharing wisdom over simple meals. Some knowledge survives because someone chooses to remember. The tea is ready. You hand him a warm clay cup. He wraps both hands around it, enjoying its comforting heat before taking the first careful sip. Outside, the breeze grows a little stronger. The herb bundles hanging from the beams sway almost imperceptibly. For a few minutes, neither of you speaks. There is no awkwardness in the silence, only companionship. In today's world, silence is often treated as something that must be filled. Here, silence is welcomed like an old friend. It allows thoughts to settle gently. It gives tired minds a chance to rest. After finishing his tea, the shepherd reaches into a leather pouch hanging from his belt. Instead of coins, he places a small round of fresh goat's cheese upon the table. Beside it, he sets a loaf of dark rye bread, still carrying the faint warmth of the village baker's oven. Payment in medieval villages often took many forms. Not every exchange involved silver. Neighbors traded according to what each household could offer. A shepherd might bring cheese, a farmer, fresh eggs, a beekeeper, a small jar of honey. Such exchanges strengthened more than livelihoods. They strengthened trust. You thank him warmly and accept the gifts with genuine appreciation. Nothing is measured against market prices. Everything is valued because it represents honest work. As the shepherd prepares to leave, he pauses at the doorway. The morning sunlight now fills the garden completely. Lavender dances gently beneath the wings of busy bees. The old man takes one long, contented breath. "It is peaceful here," he says almost to himself. You watch him follow the winding path back toward the hills until the forest slowly hides him from view. Then the valley becomes quiet once again. The kettle rests softly above the fire. The herbs continue drying beneath the ceiling beams. The birds continue singing as though they have never stopped. And another peaceful day, filled with small acts of kindness, continues to unfold at its own gentle pace. The cottage grows quiet once more after the shepherd disappears beyond the bend in the woodland path. His footsteps fade gradually into the distance until they become impossible to distinguish from the rustling leaves and the whisper of the breeze through the trees. You remain standing in the doorway for another moment, not because you are expecting another visitor, simply because the morning is too beautiful to leave just yet. The sunlight has climbed higher now, bathing the little herb garden in a warm golden glow. Tiny beads of dew have almost disappeared, lifted gently into the air by the growing warmth of the day. Only a few shaded corners beneath the rosemary bushes still hold sparkling drops that catch the light like tiny crystals. You step onto the narrow stone path that winds between carefully tended beds of herbs. Every plant has its own place, not arranged in perfect rows for appearance alone, but according to years of quiet experience. Those that enjoy the fullest sunshine grow together along the southern edge of the garden. Others that prefer cooler shade rest comfortably beneath the spreading branches of an old apple tree. Nothing here has happened by accident. Every corner reflects careful observation gathered over many seasons. The lavender is beginning to reach its fullest bloom. Its long purple flowers sway gently whenever the breeze passes through the garden. Bees move patiently from blossom to blossom, never appearing rushed despite the countless flowers waiting around them. Watching them always brings a quiet sense of calm. They ask for no praise. They simply continue their work. Nearby, rows of sage spread their soft gray-green leaves beneath the sunlight. You brush your fingertips gently across them. Their fragrance rises immediately into the warm air, earthy, slightly peppery, and deeply comforting. For centuries, sage has been one of the most valued herbs in European gardens, appreciated not only for its usefulness, but also for its remarkable ability to thrive with patient care. A little farther along, thyme forms dense cushions between smooth stones. Its tiny leaves release a rich aroma beneath the lightest touch. Rather than harvesting today, you simply pause to admire how healthy it has become. Not every visit to the garden must end with gathering. Sometimes appreciation is enough. The old wooden fence surrounding the cottage has become home to climbing roses. Their pale pink blossoms open wide beneath the morning sun, filling the air with a delicate sweetness that drifts gently through the entire garden. A butterfly lands softly upon one flower before lifting away almost as silently as it arrived. Its graceful movements remind you how many lives quietly depend upon this peaceful little place. The herbs nourish the bees. The bees help the flowers bloom. The flowers become seeds. The seeds become next year's garden. Each season quietly prepares the next. You kneel beside a patch of calendula whose bright orange petals shine like tiny suns. These cheerful blossoms have opened fully during the morning. You gather only a few. The rest remain where they are, offering nectar to visiting insects throughout the day. The basket hanging from your arm stays nearly empty. That is perfectly acceptable. Some days are meant for collecting. Others are meant for simply observing. Both are valuable. Beyond the fence, a narrow dirt path leads toward the village fields. From where you stand, you can see farmers working slowly behind a pair of sturdy oxen. The wooden plow cuts neat lines through the rich, dark soil while several white birds follow behind, searching for insects uncovered by each careful pass. The work is steady, patient, almost rhythmic. No machine interrupts the quiet landscape. Only the occasional call between neighbors carries across the valley before dissolving into the warm summer air. The smell of freshly turned earth reaches your garden. It mingles with lavender, mint, and blooming roses until the entire morning seems filled with the fragrance of growing things. A gentle wind stirs the branches of the old apple tree overhead. Though the fruit is still small and green, each apple promises the arrival of autumn many weeks from now. The tree has stood here longer than anyone in the village can remember. Children who once climbed its branches have become grandparents. Still, every spring it blossoms. Every autumn it bears fruit. Its quiet faithfulness offers a lesson without words. Time moves steadily. Nature does not resist it. Neither should you. Near the base of the tree grows a patch of lemon balm. The fresh leaves shimmer softly in the sunlight. You gather a small handful, rubbing one gently between your fingers. Its bright citrus fragrance rises immediately, fresh and cheerful without overwhelming the senses. The scent lingers pleasantly upon your hands. Even after many years, it still brings a quiet smile. Small comforts often arrive in simple forms: a familiar fragrance, a warm cup of tea, the sound of birds greeting the morning, the cool touch of spring water after a long walk. Life rarely needs grand moments to feel meaningful. At the edge of the garden, several woven baskets rest upside down upon a wooden bench, drying after yesterday's washing. Nearby, clay watering jars collect rainwater from the cottage roof. Nothing is wasted. Rain becomes nourishment for the herbs. Fallen leaves become rich compost. Ash from the fireplace is scattered lightly around certain plants that benefit from the minerals left behind. Every season gives something. Every season receives something in return. The balance feels gentle, natural, unforced. A pair of swallows swoops low across the garden, chasing tiny insects that dance in the sunlight. Their wings move so swiftly they seem almost to disappear. For a few joyful moments, they circle above the lavender before disappearing toward the village church tower. You follow them with your eyes until they become little more than dark specks against the brilliant blue sky. The bell rings once, a single clear note. It is nearly midday now. The warmth of the sun settles comfortably across the garden, and even the bees seem to slow their busy flights for a little while. You place the few freshly gathered calendula blossoms and lemon balm leaves into your basket. There is no need to collect more. The shelves inside the cottage are already well supplied. The drying herbs hanging from the beams promise abundance for the months ahead. Contentment, you have learned, often begins with recognizing when enough is truly enough. With one last peaceful glance across the flourishing garden, you make your way back toward the open cottage door. Inside, cool shade, the gentle crackle of the fire, and the comforting fragrance of herbs await your return. The afternoon is only beginning, and with it, another quiet chapter in the timeless rhythm of a medieval herbal healer's life. The cool shade of the cottage welcomes you as you step inside, leaving the bright warmth of the garden behind. For a moment, your eyes adjust to the softer light. The thick timber walls keep the room pleasantly cool, even as the summer sun continues to warm the valley outside. Thin streams of sunlight slip through the small leaded window, stretching across the wooden floor in quiet bands of gold. The scent inside has changed ever so slightly. This morning, the room smelled mostly of freshly gathered herbs. Now another fragrance joins them, the sweet, warm aroma of plants slowly drying in the still air. It is a scent that speaks of patience, of days passing gently, of summer preparing for winter without the slightest hurry. You close the cottage door only halfway, allowing a soft breeze to drift through the room. Good air is one of the oldest companions of a herbal healer. Fresh herbs must never be rushed by excessive heat. Instead, they are allowed to dry gradually, preserving both their fragrance and their usefulness. You set the basket upon the oak table. Today's harvest is modest. A handful of calendula blossoms, fresh lemon balm, several sprigs of thyme, enough for the day's work, nothing more. You spread a clean piece of woven linen across the table. The fabric has been washed many times in the nearby stream until it has become wonderfully soft. One by one, the herbs are laid upon it. No stems overlap. No blossoms are crowded together. Each plant is given its own little space. It is quiet work. Some might even call it repetitive. Yet you have never found it boring. There is a gentle satisfaction in caring for small things well. Outside the open window, A breeze carries the distant laughter of children from the village. Perhaps they are helping gather eggs. Perhaps they are chasing one another through the hay fields while their parents finish the morning's work. Their voices rise and fall like bird song before disappearing once again into the peaceful countryside. The cottage returns to silence. Above your head, dozens of herb bundles sway almost imperceptibly. Lavender, yarrow, sage, rosemary, mint. Each bundle has been tied with simple linen thread, leaving enough room for the air to move freely between the stems. The ceiling has slowly become a hanging garden. When visitors first enter, many instinctively look upward in quiet wonder. It is as though summer itself has been carefully gathered and suspended above the room. You reach for a small wooden ladder resting against the wall. Its rungs are smooth from many years of careful use. Climbing only a few steps, you examine one bundle of chamomile collected nearly 2 weeks ago. The blossoms have dried beautifully. Their petals remain pale and delicate. The centers are still richly golden. You gently remove the bundle and carry it back to the table. Now comes another peaceful ritual, separating the blossoms from their stems. Your fingers move slowly and naturally. Twist, lift, place. Twist, lift, place. Each tiny flower falls softly into a waiting clay bowl. The dry stems are set aside. Nothing useful is discarded. Some stems will be added to the compost pile behind the cottage, eventually returning their goodness to the soil that nourishes next year's garden. The cycle continues, just as it always has. As you work, a shaft of sunlight settles across the table. Tiny particles float lazily through the warm beam of light. Dust, pollen, perhaps a few drifting seeds carried in through the open window. They move so slowly that they almost appear suspended in time. You pause for a moment simply to watch them. The world is full of quiet beauty that reveals itself only to those willing to slow down enough to notice. A soft flutter near the doorway catches your attention. A little wren has landed upon the wooden threshold. Its head tilts curiously as it studies the room. Perhaps it has visited before. Perhaps it simply finds the cottage an interesting place. For a few peaceful seconds, neither of you moves. Then, with a cheerful flick of its tiny wings, the bird disappears back into the bright afternoon. You smile gently. Even the smallest visitors seem welcome here. The bowl of dried chamomile blossoms is nearly full now. Their fragrance has become richer since drying, sweeter, warmer. Soon they will be stored in carefully sealed pottery jars, safe from moisture until they are needed during the colder months. You cross the room toward a sturdy wooden cabinet. Opening its heavy door reveals rows of neatly arranged containers. Some are large enough to hold bundles of herbs gathered over many weeks. Others are quite small, reserved for rarer plants that grow only in certain corners of the forest. Each jar bears a simple parchment label written with dark oak gall ink. The handwriting is clear but unadorned. These labels are not meant to impress. They are meant to endure. You gently pour the dried chamomile blossoms into an empty jar. The sound is surprisingly soft, almost like the whisper of dry leaves on an autumn afternoon. A linen cloth is placed over the opening before the clay lid is secured. The blossoms will rest here quietly until winter. Perhaps they will comfort a sleepless farmer after a long day's work. Perhaps they will soothe an anxious child during a cold evening. Or perhaps they will simply become part of a warm drink shared between neighbors beside a glowing fire. You cannot know. And somehow, that makes the work even more meaningful. There is no need to see every result of your efforts. It is enough to prepare well. The church bell sounds faintly across the valley. Its gentle tone drifts through the open window, carried by the afternoon breeze. The sun has begun its slow journey toward the western hills. The light entering the cottage grows softer now. changing from bright gold to a warmer amber glow. Outside, the herb garden sways peacefully beneath the lazy flight of butterflies. Inside, the shelves are a little fuller than they were this morning. The hanging bundles are a little lighter. The clay jars hold a little more of summer's quiet abundance. None of the changes are dramatic. Most visitors would hardly notice them, but you do. Because this life is built not upon great events, but upon hundreds of small acts of care. A flower gathered with patience, a bundle tied with steady hands, a jar filled for the winter ahead, one peaceful task at a time. The afternoon stretches gently before you, carrying no urgency, only the comforting promise that there is still plenty of daylight left, and the forest, just beyond your garden gate, continues to breathe its timeless rhythm. The afternoon settles over the valley like a soft linen blanket. Nothing seems eager to move. Even the breeze has become gentler, slipping through the open window only now and then, just enough to stir the hanging bundles of herbs suspended from the oak beams. You stand quietly in the center of the cottage and simply listen. The fire has burned lower, its bright flames replaced by glowing embers that radiate a steady warmth. Somewhere outside, a wood pigeon calls from the edge of the forest. Its slow, repeating song drifts across the fields, lingering for a few moments before fading into the peaceful stillness. It is the sort of sound that could easily become part of the landscape itself, noticed only when it disappears. You walk toward the long wooden shelf beneath the window. Resting there are several empty clay jars waiting to be filled over the coming weeks. Each has been shaped by the village potter using clay gathered from the riverbank a few miles away. No two jars are exactly alike. One leans ever so slightly to the left. Another has tiny ripples circling its neck where careful fingers once guided spinning clay upon the wheel. Imperfections are expected. They remind everyone that skilled hands, not machines, created these simple vessels. You lift one of the jars into the sunlight. Its reddish surface glows warmly, revealing faint fingerprints preserved forever in the hardened clay. Perhaps the potter never noticed them. Perhaps he smiled and left them there intentionally. Either way, they remain a quiet signature from someone whose work supports the entire village. The baker depends upon the miller depends upon the farmer, the shepherd depends upon healthy pasture, and the healer depends upon them all, just as they sometimes depend upon the healer. No one stands entirely alone. Medieval village life was woven together, much like the linen cloth spread across your table. Individual threads appear delicate. Together they become remarkably strong. You return the jar to its place and open a small wooden chest tucked beneath the shelf. Inside rest dozens of carefully folded linen bags. Some are no larger than your hand. Others are wide enough to hold generous bundles of dried herbs. You choose several of the smaller bags. These will soon carry carefully measured mixtures prepared for neighbors who visit during the coming weeks. One receives dried chamomile, another a little peppermint gathered beside the stream. Into a third goes fragrant lemon balm. Each herb is measured slowly, not with scales, not with precise numbers, but with practiced eyes developed over many seasons. Experience has become its own quiet guide. After filling each bag, you tie it closed using soft linen cord. The knots are simple, easy to untie, easy to use again. Nothing is wasted. Across the room, sunlight reaches the old wooden cabinet standing beside the hearth. Its surface bears countless tiny scratches left by years of ordinary use. A basket placed here, a clay bowl moved there, a folded blanket resting across the top during winter evenings. Each mark tells a story too ordinary to be remembered individually. Together, they become the history of a peaceful home. You run your hand gently across the worn wood. It feels smooth despite its age. Generations before you likely touched furniture much like this. Generations after you may do the same. Simple things often last the longest. Outside, the shadows have begun to stretch across the herb garden. The old apple tree casts cool shade over the beds of mint and lemon balm. A pair of butterflies dances lazily above the calendula blossoms before drifting toward the meadow beyond the fence. The bees continue working, though more slowly now. Their busiest hours are nearly behind them. You decide to inspect the bundles hanging nearest the doorway. The rosemary has dried beautifully. Its needle-like leaves remain rich with fragrance. When rubbed gently between your fingers, they release a warm, resinous scent that instantly recalls sunny hillsides and fresh mountain air. You smile quietly. Certain scents seem capable of preserving entire seasons. Long after winter snow blankets the valley, a single crushed rosemary leaf will still whisper of bright summer afternoons. Nearby hangs a bundle of peppermint harvested only a few days ago. Its stems still feel slightly cool and flexible. Not ready. You leave it exactly where it is. Patience once again proves itself the wisest choice. As the afternoon drifts onward, you notice how differently the light fills the cottage now. This morning it entered bright and energetic. Now it has softened into rich amber tones that seem to wrap every object in quiet warmth. The clay jars glow gently upon the shelves. The oak table reflects bands of honey-colored light. Even the hanging herbs appear touched with gold. It is easy to understand why so many evenings are remembered more vividly than afternoons. The world seems gentler as the sun begins its slow descent. You step outside carrying a small wooden stool. Placing it beneath the apple tree, you sit for a little while without any task demanding your attention. The cottage stands peacefully behind you. Its straw roof shines softly beneath the afternoon sun. Thin curls of smoke continue rising from the chimney before dissolving into the endless blue sky. Beyond the garden, fields ripple gently beneath the breeze like waves upon a quiet sea. A farmer guides his oxen toward home. In the distance, sheep gather naturally into small groups as their shepherd whistles softly from the hillside. No one appears hurried. There is still work to finish before evening, but there is also time to enjoy the beauty quietly unfolding between those tasks. You close your eyes for just a moment. The scent of lavender drifts through the air. A bee hums nearby before moving on to another flower. Leaves rustle overhead. The old apple tree offers cool shade exactly as it has done for decades, perhaps centuries. When you open your eyes again, the afternoon has slipped forward almost unnoticed. The sunlight is lower now. Long shadows stretch peacefully across the garden paths. Soon, the village will begin preparing its evening meals. Soon, smoke from dozens of chimneys will rise together into the calm sky. And soon, your own cottage will glow once more with the warm light of candles, welcoming another tranquil evening in this quiet corner of the medieval world. The afternoon slowly begins to surrender to evening. You remain seated beneath the old apple tree for a little while longer, watching as the sunlight softens into deeper shades of honey and amber. The warmth of the day no longer presses upon the valley. Instead, a cool breath of air slips gently down from the surrounding hills, carrying with it the fresh scent of pine forests and distant streams. The herb garden seems to welcome the change. Lavender sways with slower movements. The bees, so busy only an hour before, begin returning to their hives, each carrying the final grains of golden pollen collected from the day's blossoms. Butterflies disappear into the taller grasses where they will remain safely hidden until morning. Even the birds sing less frequently now. The valley is preparing for night in its own quiet way. You rise from the stool, brushing a few fallen apple leaves from your cloak. There is one final task before the evening grows darker. Preparing supper. Not a grand feast. Not an elaborate banquet worthy of noble halls. Simply the kind of meal that has quietly nourished ordinary people throughout countless generations. Inside the cottage, The warmth of the stone hearth greets you once again. The fire has settled into a bed of glowing coals, their orange light dancing softly against the rough stone walls. You kneel beside the fireplace and add 2 carefully split pieces of seasoned oak. For a moment, nothing happens. Then a tiny flame appears. It licks gently along the edge of the wood before growing stronger, filling the room with a comforting crackle. The sound is deeply familiar. No matter how many evenings pass, there is always something reassuring about a fire coming back to life. Above the hearth hangs a sturdy black iron cooking pot, polished smooth by years of careful use. You lift the lid and pour in fresh spring water collected earlier that morning. Soon, tiny bubbles begin gathering along the bottom of the pot. While the water slowly warms, you step toward a woven basket resting near the pantry shelf. Inside are several onions harvested only a few weeks ago. Beside them lie carrots still carrying traces of the rich garden soil from which they were gently pulled. A handful of leeks waits nearby, their pale green leaves wrapped neatly together with linen string. You select only what you need. 1 onion, 2 carrots, a single leek. The vegetables are carried to the wooden table where a well-used chopping board rests. Your knife glides slowly through the onion. Its blade has been sharpened many times over the years, yet its wooden handle remains remarkably smooth beneath your hand. The onion releases its sweet, earthy fragrance as neat slices fall quietly onto the board. The carrots follow. Then the leek. Each vegetable joins the warming water inside the pot. The colors brighten almost immediately. Soft orange, fresh green, creamy white. Simple ingredients, simple beauty. From a small cloth pouch hanging near the window, you choose several herbs gathered from your own garden. A little thyme, 1 bay leaf carefully dried last autumn, a few tender parsley leaves, nothing more. Their fragrance rises with the steam as they meet the simmering broth. There are no expensive spices carried across distant oceans, no rare ingredients reserved for kings, only what the nearby fields, gardens, and forests have generously provided. For many people living in medieval villages, meals reflected the changing seasons. Fresh vegetables during warmer months, stored grains and dried herbs through winter. Food was closely connected to the land and to the rhythm of the year. As the soup gently simmers, you knead a small portion of rye dough prepared earlier in the week. The dough feels cool beneath your palms, soft, elastic, comfortingly familiar. You shape it into a modest round loaf and place it upon a flat stone near the warmth of the fire. Its crust will become golden by the time the soup is ready. The cottage gradually fills with another wonderful fragrance. Not herbs alone now, but fresh bread, warm vegetables, wood smoke. Together they create an aroma capable of making almost anyone feel at home. Outside, the light continues to fade. Through the small window, you watch long shadows stretching across the herb garden. The old apple tree stands quietly against a sky that has begun turning shades of soft peach and pale rose. A pair of swallows makes one final graceful circle above the fields before disappearing beneath the roof of the village barn. Their day's work is finished. Yours is nearly finished as well. While the meal cooks, you take a damp linen cloth and wipe the oak table clean. Every bowl is returned to its proper shelf. The knife is carefully dried before being placed back into its leather sheath. The chopping board is brushed free of vegetable peels, which will later be carried to the compost heap behind the cottage. Nothing useful is wasted. Even the smallest scraps eventually find their way back into the soil. The fire crackles steadily. The soup releases slow curls of fragrant steam. The bread begins to brown beautifully. You stir the pot only once. There is no need for constant attention. Good food, much like good herbs, asks only for patience. A gentle breeze enters through the open doorway, carrying the distant sound of sheep bells from the hillside. The flock is returning home. Their soft chiming blends with the evening chorus of crickets beginning to awaken in the grasses. One by one, the familiar sounds of daytime quietly hand the valley over to the peaceful music of night. You lift the lid from the bread. Its crust has turned a rich golden brown. When you tap it gently with your knuckles, it answers with a warm, hollow sound. Perfect. You place the loaf upon a wooden board and allow it to cool for a few moments before slicing it with slow, careful movements. Steam rises from the fresh bread. Its comforting aroma fills every corner of the cottage. Finally, you ladle the vegetable soup into a simple clay bowl. Tiny pieces of carrot float gently beside fresh herbs. The broth glows warmly in the light of the fire. You carry the bowl to the small table beside the window. Outside, the last light of the sun slips quietly beyond the western hills. The first evening star appears above the darkening forest. You whisper a quiet word of gratitude, not as part of any grand ceremony, but as a simple acknowledgement of the day's gentle gifts. The forest, the garden, clean water, honest work, warm food, a peaceful home. Sometimes, a contented life is built from nothing more than these small blessings, gathered one day at a time. You break a piece of fresh bread, dip it into the warm soup, and enjoy the quiet comfort of a meal prepared with patience. Beyond the window, the medieval world grows softer with every passing moment, and as darkness gently settles across the valley, the cottage begins to glow like a small lantern beneath the ancient trees, promising a calm and restful evening still to come. The final spoonful of warm soup disappears slowly, leaving behind a comforting warmth that seems to spread through both body and mind. You remain seated for a little while longer. There is no reason to hurry away from the table. Outside the window, daylight slips gently behind the western hills, and the colors of the sky begin their quiet transformation. Soft gold becomes pale amber. Amber slowly deepens into rose. Rose fades into delicate shades of lavender and blue. For a few precious moments, the entire valley seems suspended between day and night. The old apple tree casts a long shadow across the herb garden. Its leaves rustle softly in the evening breeze, sounding almost like the turning pages of a well-loved book. The bees have disappeared into their hive. The butterflies are nowhere to be seen. Only a few swallows remain, making graceful circles high above the fields before finally settling beneath the wooden beams of nearby barns. You gather the empty bowl and clay cup from the table. Cleaning them is another quiet ritual. A wooden bucket filled with cool spring water waits beside the door. You dip a linen cloth into the water and carefully wash each piece. The cool water reflects the fading light from the window, shimmering gently with every movement. Once clean, the bowl is placed upside down upon a wooden shelf to dry naturally. Nothing here is polished until it shines. Nothing is decorated for display. Everything is clean because it serves a purpose. As the last traces of daylight begin to disappear, you walk toward the hearth. The fire has settled into glowing embers once again. With practiced hands, you add one small log. Not enough to brighten the room with great flames, only enough to keep a gentle warmth through the evening. Almost immediately, tiny sparks dance upward before vanishing into the chimney. The soft crackling becomes the cottage's evening companion. Near the fireplace rests a small wooden box containing several beeswax candles. Each candle has been carefully made by the village beekeeper during the previous autumn. Beeswax candles are precious. They burn more cleanly than those made from animal fat and carry a faint, naturally sweet fragrance that mingles beautifully with the scent of dried herbs. You choose only one. There is no need to light several. One gentle flame is enough. The flint strikes the steel. A tiny spark catches the wick. Within moments, the candle begins to glow with a warm golden light. Its flame moves quietly whenever the evening breeze slips through the partly open window. The room changes immediately. Shadows grow softer. The hanging herbs seem almost alive as they sway gently overhead. The clay jars cast long silhouettes across the oak table. Everything feels calmer beneath candlelight. Perhaps people have always found comfort in small flames pushing back the darkness. For thousands of years, evenings have ended much this way. A fire, a candle, a peaceful home. You walk toward the wooden cabinet and remove a carefully folded parchment manuscript. Its edges have become slightly worn over the years. The ink has faded in places, yet every page remains perfectly readable. Inside are notes gathered not only by you, but also by the healer who came before you, and by the healer before her. Generations have quietly added their observations. One hand writes beside another. Different styles, different years, the same purpose. You sit beside the candle and open the manuscript gently. Tonight, you are not searching for new knowledge. You are simply remembering old wisdom. One page describes the best season for gathering elderflowers. Another speaks of storing dried mint inside tightly sealed pottery jars to preserve its fragrance through the winter. Further along, someone has drawn careful sketches of common woodland plants. The illustrations are simple, not artistic masterpieces, yet remarkably accurate. Every leaf has been observed with patience, every flower carefully remembered. You smile softly. Knowledge grows much like a forest. No single tree creates the woodland. Many generations contribute their quiet part. You dip a feather quill into a small bottle of oak gall ink. Today's observations deserve a place among the older pages. In neat handwriting, you record the condition of this summer's lavender, the early flowering of the calendula, the healthy growth of lemon balm after several weeks of gentle rain. Simple notes, ordinary details. Yet perhaps someone many years from now will read them with gratitude. Perhaps another healer will compare your observations with their own. Perhaps they will quietly continue the tradition. You blow gently across the fresh ink. The words dry slowly beneath the candlelight. Outside, darkness settles more completely across the valley. The first stars appear above the treetops. One, then another. Soon dozens sparkle against the deep blue sky. Without the bright lights of later centuries, the heavens reveal themselves in extraordinary beauty. The stars seem almost close enough to touch. The familiar ribbon of the Milky Way stretches softly across the night, guiding travelers and inspiring dreamers just as it has for countless generations. From somewhere deep within the forest comes the gentle call of an owl. Its voice echoes once, then again. The sound is never startling, only reassuring. A reminder that while people sleep, other creatures quietly begin their day. The world never truly rests. It simply changes its rhythm. You close the manuscript and return it carefully to the cabinet. The feather quill is cleaned, the ink bottle sealed. Everything is returned to its proper place. A peaceful room is easier to wake to in the morning. The candle burns steadily beside the window. Outside, a cool mist begins gathering once again across the meadow, just as it did before sunrise. The valley is completing its circle. Morning mist became afternoon sunshine. Afternoon sunshine became evening gold. Evening gold has now become gentle moonlight. Tomorrow, the rhythm will begin again. Not exactly the same. No 2 days ever are, yet beautifully familiar. You step outside for one final breath of fresh night air. The herb garden glows softly beneath the rising moon. Silver light rests upon the lavender blossoms. The old apple tree stands peacefully against a sky overflowing with stars. A cool breeze carries the fragrance of mint and rosemary across the quiet valley. Somewhere beyond the fields, a shepherd's dog gives one distant bark before silence returns. The village sleeps. The forest watches. The little cottage, filled with herbs, candlelight, and quiet wisdom, stands peacefully beneath the ancient trees. Its warm glow a gentle reminder that the simplest lives often leave the deepest traces. You take one slow, grateful breath and quietly welcome the peaceful night. The candle continues to burn quietly behind you, its warm glow spilling through the cottage window like a tiny beacon against the deepening night. You remain outside for a little while longer. There is no chill sharp enough to send you indoors, only the pleasant coolness that arrives after a warm summer day. It settles gently upon your shoulders, carrying the scent of damp earth, wild grasses, and pine needles resting beneath the ancient trees. Above, the sky has become astonishingly clear. Without the smoke and lights of distant cities, the heavens reveal themselves in extraordinary detail. Thousands upon thousands of stars shimmer across the darkness. Some appear brilliant and unwavering. Others twinkle softly, their light dancing almost imperceptibly as it passes through the cool night air. For countless generations, people living in places like this have looked upward at these very same stars. Farmers finished long harvest days beneath them. Shepherds guided their flocks home by their familiar patterns. Travelers found direction from their steady presence. Children dreamed beneath them. Grandparents shared stories beneath them. Long before written maps became common, the night sky itself served as one of humanity's oldest companions. You walk slowly through the herb garden. Moonlight transforms everything. The bright colors of the day fade into gentle shades of silver and blue. Lavender appears almost gray. The broad leaves of sage shimmer with a pale, velvety glow. Tiny droplets of evening moisture begin collecting once more upon the mint leaves, catching the moonlight like scattered pearls. The garden feels peaceful in daylight. At night, it feels almost timeless. You stop beside the old apple tree. Its great branches stretch quietly across the sky, their leaves whispering together whenever the breeze moves through them. No one alive remembers who planted this tree. Perhaps it was the grandfather of someone's grandfather. Perhaps an unknown traveler paused here many decades ago with nothing more than an apple in his pocket, leaving behind a few seeds without imagining that one day they would grow into this generous tree. Some gifts continue long after the giver has been forgotten. The thought brings a quiet smile. So much of life unfolds that way. The herbs drying in your cottage may comfort someone you have never met. The notes written in your manuscript may help a healer many years from now. The apple tree offers fruit each autumn without asking who planted it. Kindness, like nature, often continues beyond the moment in which it begins. A soft rustling comes from the meadow beyond the garden fence. You remain perfectly still. Gradually, two young deer step into the moonlight. Their movements are slow and cautious, yet they show no sign of alarm. They lower their heads to nibble fresh grass glistening with evening dew. Every so often, one raises its ears, listening to the gentle sounds of the forest before returning peacefully to its meal. You watch them quietly. There is no desire to move closer. Some moments become more beautiful when observed from a respectful distance. The breeze shifts again. This time it carries the cool fragrance of the nearby stream. Though hidden by darkness and trees, you can hear the water flowing steadily over smooth stones. It sounds exactly as it did before sunrise, exactly as it sounded yesterday, exactly as it will sound tomorrow. The stream has no concern for calendars. Its quiet journey continues through every season. In spring, it carries melting snow. In summer, it reflects bright skies. During autumn, colorful leaves drift gently along its surface. In winter, thin sheets of ice gather quietly at its edges. Yet the water continues onward. Its rhythm changes, but its purpose remains. Perhaps people are not so different. Our lives pass through many seasons as well. Childhood brings curiosity. Youth brings energy. Adulthood offers responsibility. Old age often carries wisdom earned through quiet experience. Each season has its own gentle beauty. None lasts forever. None needs to. Far above, a shooting star glides silently across the sky before disappearing beyond the western hills. The moment lasts only a heartbeat, yet somehow it feels complete. Not every beautiful thing needs to remain. Some are precious precisely because they pass so quietly. The moon climbs a little higher. Its silver light reaches the roof of the cottage, illuminating the straw thatch with soft, pale brilliance. From inside comes the faint scent of beeswax and drying lavender drifting through the partly open window. The warm glow of the candle still flickers gently upon the stone walls. The cottage seems almost alive, not because it moves, because it has sheltered so many peaceful evenings. Walls remember laughter. Fireplaces remember countless shared meals. Wooden tables remember careful hands preparing herbs, kneading bread, writing observations, and welcoming neighbors. Homes quietly collect memories, even when they cannot speak. A tiny hedgehog appears near the herb garden, snuffling softly through the grass in search of beetles and insects. Its little nose twitches constantly, completely unaware that it has become tonight's quiet visitor. You watch for a few moments before it disappears beneath the shelter of a rosemary bush. The night belongs to many small creatures. Owls glide silently between trees. Bats weave graceful paths through the air, catching insects almost invisibly. Foxes begin their cautious wanderings along woodland trails. While the village sleeps, another world gently awakens. You take a slow breath. The air feels wonderfully clean. Each inhale carries traces of lavender, pine, cool earth, and distant wildflowers. Each exhale seems to release another little piece of the day. There is nothing left to accomplish. The herbs have been gathered, the garden tended, the visitors welcomed, the meal prepared, the notes written, the fire cared for. The day has quietly offered everything it wished to give. Now, it asks only for rest. You look once more toward the stars. They seem even brighter now that your eyes have fully adjusted to the darkness. The familiar constellations continue their slow journey across the heavens, just as they have done for thousands of years. They ask nothing from those who admire them. They simply shine, patiently, faithfully, night after night. With one final glance across the peaceful valley, you turn toward the warm light of the cottage. The wooden door remains open, inviting you inside. The candle waits upon the table. The fire glows softly in the hearth. And beyond the quiet walls, the ancient forest continues its endless watch beneath the moonlit sky. Tomorrow will bring another gentle sunrise, another peaceful walk among the herbs, another day lived slowly, thoughtfully, and close to the timeless rhythms of nature. But for now, the medieval world rests beneath a blanket of stars, and so, perhaps, can you. You step quietly back into the cottage, gently pulling the wooden door until it rests almost closed. Not completely, just enough to leave a narrow opening for the cool night air to wander inside. The scent of the forest follows you, fresh pine, moist earth, wild mint growing somewhere beside the stream. Together, they mingle with the comforting fragrance of lavender, chamomile, and rosemary that has filled the little cottage throughout the day. The candle still burns steadily upon the oak table. Its small flame bends slightly whenever the evening breeze slips through the doorway, casting slow-moving shadows across the stone walls. Those shadows stretch and sway among the hanging herbs, making them appear almost like quiet guardians watching peacefully over the room. The fire has settled into glowing embers. Their warmth is gentle now, no longer intended for cooking but for comfort. Every now and then, a tiny piece of oak shifts with a soft crack, sending a brief shower of glowing sparks upward before they disappear into the chimney. It is a sound that has ended countless days in cottages just like this one. A sound that asks for nothing except stillness. You move through the room one final time. The clay jars stand neatly upon their shelves. Each holds a little of the passing summer, preserved with care for the colder months ahead. Bundles of herbs continue their quiet work overhead, drying patiently in the cool night air. The manuscript rests safely inside its cabinet, today's observations now joining the wisdom of many years. The earthen bowls have dried completely. The wooden spoon has been returned to its familiar place. Nothing has been left unfinished. There is a quiet satisfaction in ending the day with gentle order. Tomorrow will begin more peacefully because tonight was completed with care. You lift the candle and carry it slowly toward the sleeping corner of the cottage. A simple bed waits there, built from sturdy oak by a village carpenter many years ago. Its mattress is stuffed with clean straw, softened by layers of wool blankets and smooth linen sheets. It is not luxurious. It does not need to be. After a day spent walking forest paths, tending gardens, preparing herbs, and sharing kindness with neighbors, simple comfort is more than enough. You place the candle upon a small wooden stool beside the bed. Its warm light fills the corner with a peaceful golden glow. Outside, the sounds of the night continue their gentle rhythm. Crickets sing steadily from the tall grass. The distant stream flows with quiet determination. An owl calls once from somewhere among the ancient oaks. Then silence returns. Not empty silence, living silence. The kind that wraps itself gently around every tree, every stone, every sleeping creature beneath the moon. You sit for a moment on the edge of the bed. Your hands rest comfortably in your lap. Without thinking, your eyes wander once more around the little cottage. How many evenings have unfolded within these walls? Hundreds? Perhaps thousands? How many fires have warmed this hearth? How many loaves of bread have baked above these glowing coals? How many frightened children have smiled after receiving a comforting cup of herbal tea? How many tired farmers have found relief after long days in the fields? No records exist to answer such questions, yet somehow the cottage remembers. Its worn floorboards remember countless footsteps. Its wooden beams remember every changing season. Its stone fireplace remembers every winter. Quiet places often hold the deepest histories, not because great events happen there, but because ordinary life unfolded there with patience, kindness, and care. You lean forward and gently blow toward the candle. For a brief moment, the flame dances. Then it disappears. A delicate ribbon of smoke curls upward into the darkness before fading completely. Moonlight now becomes the cottage's only light. It enters softly through the little window, spreading silver patterns across the wooden floor. The hanging herbs become quiet silhouettes. The clay jars rest peacefully in the pale glow. Outside, clouds drift slowly across the stars before passing on, revealing the bright heavens once again. The valley sleeps. The sheep rest safely within their stone enclosure. The chickens tuck their heads beneath their feathers. The old shepherd you welcomed this morning is surely asleep beneath his own roof, perhaps comforted by the warm herbal infusion you prepared for him. The baker rests before another early morning. The farmers gather their strength for another day in the fields. The beekeeper dreams while his hives remain still beneath the moon. Across the village, every home has grown quiet. Each one holds its own stories, its own hopes, its own peaceful dreams. You settle beneath the wool blanket. It carries the faint scent of lavender tucked into the bedding many weeks ago. The fragrance is soft now, gentle, almost impossible to notice unless you pause long enough to breathe it in. You close your eyes. The events of the day drift through your thoughts. not as busy memories demanding attention, but as calm moments floating gently across the mind. Morning mist upon the meadow, dew sparkling on chamomile blossoms, the cheerful greeting of the old shepherd, fresh herbs hanging from oak beams, warm soup shared beside the fire, the quiet beauty of stars above the forest. Simple moments, yet together they have created a day full of quiet meaning. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson this peaceful little cottage offers. A meaningful life does not always arrive through extraordinary adventures. Sometimes it grows slowly, almost unnoticed, through gentle routines repeated with love, through careful hands tending a garden, through listening more than speaking, through offering comfort without expecting reward, through noticing the changing seasons and accepting each one with gratitude. Outside, the breeze moves softly through the ancient trees. Their leaves whisper together beneath the moonlight, just as they did before dawn and just as they will tomorrow. The forest keeps its timeless rhythm. The stream continues its endless song. The stars continue their silent journey across the heavens. And within this humble medieval cottage, surrounded by herbs, candlelight now replaced by moonlight, and the quiet wisdom of countless generations, peaceful sleep finally arrives, as your breathing becomes slower, as every thought grows softer, as the sounds of the medieval night gently carry you toward rest. The little herbal healer's cottage grows perfectly still. Only the forest remains awake, standing watch beneath the ancient stars until the first gentle light of another dawn begins to touch the eastern sky. Before sleep carries you completely into its gentle embrace, allow the little cottage to remain in your thoughts for just a little longer. The night has grown wonderfully still. The moon now hangs high above the ancient forest, bathing every rooftop, every meadow, and every winding footpath in soft silver light. From this peaceful height, the valley appears almost unchanged from centuries before. The herb garden rests beneath a delicate blanket of dew. Each lavender flower bends slightly beneath tiny droplets that sparkle like scattered stars. The rosemary bushes stand quietly beside the cottage wall, releasing their gentle fragrance whenever the cool breeze slips through their branches. Nothing asks for attention. Nothing competes for your thoughts. Everything simply exists. The old apple tree watches over the little home as faithfully as it has for generations. Its roots reach deep into the earth, drawing strength from soil enriched by countless seasons of falling leaves. Its branches stretch patiently toward the heavens, year after year, spring after spring, autumn after autumn. The tree never hurries, yet it never fails to grow. Perhaps people are not so different. The most meaningful changes often happen so gradually that they can only be noticed by looking back over many years. Inside the cottage, the embers continue to glow softly beneath a blanket of pale ash. They no longer burn with bright flames. Instead, they offer a quiet warmth that lingers through the night. Tomorrow morning, with only a few carefully placed pieces of dry oak, those same embers will awaken once again. There is something comforting about that. The day ends, the fire sleeps, morning comes, the fire returns. Simple rhythms have always carried life forward. Above the hearth, the herbs remain suspended in peaceful silence. Bundles of lavender, chamomile, mint, sage, thyme, rosemary, each one preserving the memory of sunny mornings spent beneath open skies. Though winter will eventually arrive, these gentle gifts of summer will continue offering comfort long after the flowers themselves have disappeared from the fields. The work of a healer is much like the work of the seasons: quiet, patient, often unnoticed, yet deeply lasting. Perhaps many years from now, another healer will stand in this very cottage. The oak table may bear a few more scratches. The stone floor may have become smoother beneath countless footsteps. The manuscript will contain many new pages written by careful hands. Yet the morning mist will still rise over the meadow. The stream will still sing beneath the trees. The birds will still greet the sunrise, and herbs will continue growing wherever the earth and sunlight welcome them. Some traditions do not survive because they are protected by kings. They survive because ordinary people choose to continue them. One generation plants, another harvests, a third remembers, and so the quiet knowledge flows onward like the little stream beside the forest, always moving, always giving, never asking for recognition. As you imagine this peaceful valley one final time, notice how every part of it belongs together. The forest shelters the springs feed the stream nourishes the fields feed the village cares for the garden fills the cottage with healing herbs. Nothing exists alone. Every living thing quietly supports another. Even the smallest bee gathering nectar among the lavender becomes part of a much larger story. Perhaps that is why this place feels so peaceful. Not because life is perfect, but because life moves in harmony. The stars slowly continue their journey across the heavens. The moon begins its gentle descent toward the western hills. Far away, beyond the forest, the faintest hint of tomorrow already waits beyond the horizon. Long before anyone opens a cottage door, long before bread is baked, long before herbs are gathered beneath the morning dew, the world quietly prepares another day. And somewhere, perhaps only in imagination now, the little medieval cottage still stands beneath its ancient oak trees. Smoke rises gently from its chimney. Lavender sways beside its doorway. A wooden bench rests beneath the old apple tree. The forest watches kindly from every side. If you ever find yourself longing for a slower world, a quieter rhythm, or simply a peaceful place to rest your thoughts, you may always return here, to the winding woodland paths, to the warm glow of the hearth, to the fragrance of herbs drying beneath weathered oak beams, to the gentle wisdom carried by seasons instead of clocks. For places like this never truly disappear. They continue living wherever they are remembered, and now the forest is quiet. The stars shine softly overhead. The little cottage sleeps peacefully beneath the moon. May your own evening be just as calm. May your dreams be just as gentle. And may the quiet kindness of this humble medieval herbal healer linger with you long after the story has faded into the silence of the night. Good night, and sleep well. For now, there is nowhere else to be, nothing more to do. Only the quiet comfort of a peaceful night and the timeless embrace of sleep.